Did you know that there's a STEM field that actually saves lives every day, and it has nothing to do with medicine? Stay tuned for more. Hello everyone, welcome to XM All Access. I'm Tamara Robertson and I'm excited to be a part of this series showcasing some of the coolest minds in STEM. As your guest host for this episode, I'm excited to chat with Muriel McClure. Muriel is a non-destructive test inspector who uses advanced technology and tools to evaluate critical equipment, preventing failures, and keeping people safe. Muriel, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Tamara. It is great to see you again. Thank you so much for this invitation, and I look forward to our conversation today.
I'm so excited to learn more, so let's jump right in. Muriel, non-destructive testing, also known as NDT, is a term most of us are not familiar with. Can you define non-destructive testing for us and tell us why it's so important?
Non-destructive testing is a method that we use to check the integrity of structures without destroying them. So what's most familiar to people is destructive testing. And so an example of that is using crash test dummies. And that's where they use speed and a wall essentially to run a car into it to check to see what speed is required to total the car. Within our industry, a form of destructive testing is maybe cutting a pipe or a pole open to check to see if there's any type of defects on the inside of those things. But once that's done, you're not able to use it anymore. So non-destructive testing is used to run inspections on items that are either newly manufactured or currently in use and check for any type of defects that could lead to failure without destroying the item. You can still use it again once you've performed the non-destructive test. And it's important because we want to be able to use those things on items such as airplane parts or even railroad tracks or bridges that we drive across every day. And non-destructive testing, our mission is to make the world a safer place. And we do that by performing non-destructive tests.
That's really cool. Most of us probably don't realize how much behind the scenes work goes into making sure the items and infrastructure we rely on are safe for us. Everything from planes, trains, and bridges to cars, parking structures, and even amusement park rides are carefully inspected using non-destructive testing to catch any hidden issues before they become serious problems. Muriel, earlier in your NDT career, you worked on submarines for the U.S. Department of Defense. What kind of testing were you involved in, and how did your work ensure the safety of the service members on board those vessels?
During the time that I worked with the Department of Defense, with the Navy, and I worked on submarines and aircraft carriers, I used inspection methods such as visual inspection, electromagnetic testing, magnetic particle testing, and liquid penetrant tests, as well as ultrasonic tests. And we use those methods to make the vessels safer for the crew members by following a specific protocol called SubSafe, which is a submarine safety program that was created after the loss of the USS Thresher back in 1963 due to flooding upon submersion. The Navy created a safety protocol that we now follow that's required for all vessels that would submerge, so all submarines. We have to follow SubSafe protocol in order to ensure that there will not be another loss of a submarine underwater due to flooding.
While many of us might never set foot on a submarine, keeping these vessels secure and the service members on board safe is a mission that protects us all. Plus, it shows just how big an impact NDT professionals make. It's so important to be able to test the integrity of something like a submarine or an airplane without causing any damage. What are some of the tools or technology you use to examine materials in a non-destructive way?
So in non-destructive testing, we use a variety of tools. It all depends on the inspection method that we're performing. One of the basic methods is visual inspection, which we use different things like scales, which is essentially a 6-inch ruler, but it has very tiny measurements on it, such as 1/32 of an inch, 1/64 of an inch, even 1/16 of an inch. And that helps us with measuring any type of indications that we do find to determine if it passes the acceptance criteria that we've been given for that inspection. And other tools that we use would be like an alternating current yoke or an AC yoke. And this would be used in magnetic particle inspections. That would be used to help us to find indications that are not visible with the naked eye. And we also use different instruments to perform electromagnetic testing. So that could be a thickness meter or an ultrasonic meter that also checks for defects in flat surfaces as well as welds or anything like that. The different types of ultrasonic inspection would be selected based on whatever type of metal that we're performing the ultrasonic inspection on. There are several other items that will be used, like different types of x-ray machines or equipment. Not something that you would normally see like in a medical office, but different types of x-ray equipment that would be used to perform x-ray inspections as well. So there are lots of tools that we use. It just all would depend on the type of inspection method that we're performing.
Working in NDT is like being a detective, but with high-tech tools that can see through metal. How cool is that? Muriel, what do you find most exciting or rewarding about working in the field of non-destructive testing?
The thing that I find most rewarding in the non-destructive testing world is just finding different indications that could possibly lead to defects. I think for me, the most exciting thing that I found is during what's called a flow accelerated corrosion inspection. And so that's an ultrasonic test where we would perform ultrasonics on a pipe to see if the inside of the pipe is corroding or if it's thinning at a faster pace because of whatever is flowing through the pipe, whether it's a steam or any type of liquid. And so really the most exciting part about this industry for me is just finding indications that could potentially lead to some type of, failure at the end that could lead to serious injury or even loss of life. So just knowing that I found something that could have prevented an issue later on is the most rewarding part of non-destructive testing for me.
You don't have to be in the medical field to save lives. NDT is a career that protects lives too. What kind of STEM skills like math, chemistry, physics, engineering, or others do you use in your job?
So different STEM skills that we use in our job would be basic algebra, basic trigonometry. We use Snell's law, the Pythagorean theorem, or different. Sometimes you have to learn how to read like a dial caliper for visual inspection. That's a measurement tool where you can measure the thickness or the length of an item. And so I actually don't want the STEM, skills or knowledge really to scare anyone because it truly is the basic form of math and it all can be taught. You can learn it on the job. Many of us didn't go to school for non-destructive testing and we learned it on the job. Like I personally thought that a scale was something that you stand on and it tells you how much you weigh. And then once I got into the NDT industry, I learned that a scale is actually a 6-inch ruler and it has very tiny measurements on it. And so I was taught how to read that. I was taught how to use a dial caliper and different other tools that we use for measurements. And so there is some math required. The same maths are not required for all inspection methods. And so some of them are just inspection specific. And so there's some math that you would use for ultrasonics that you wouldn't necessarily use for magnetic particle inspection. And so there are some math skills that you do need for this industry, but nothing that's too hard to learn. And don't let it scare you because if I can do it, you can do it too.
The opportunity to learn on the job makes this a STEM career open to anyone, even if you've never imagined yourself working in science or technology. Speaking of learning on the job, I heard that you and your son actually trained to become NDT professionals at the same time. That's such a unique experience. I'm curious though, what is your work environment like? From everything you've shared, this definitely doesn't sound like a typical office job. Have you had the chance to travel to any interesting places for your work?
So, working in the NDT industry has afforded me and my son the opportunity to travel to many places that I know I personally could never have imagined. When we were with the Department of Defense, we were able to travel to Japan and to San Diego, California, to work on aircraft carriers and submarines. I've never enlisted in the military. I do believe I'm too old to enlist right now. And so just being in NDT has given me the opportunity just to see the insides of military vessels, whereas that would not have been possible for me before. Currently, I'm working in the private sector in nuclear energy, and I work at power plants. And so I travel from state to state. And for my son, his job is also remote at the moment. And he travels to every job that he goes to. Just recently, he spent 2 weeks in Romania and he absolutely loved it. He was working at a power plant there. And he actually told me that's the cleanest power plant that he's been in. But he also travels from state to state. So there is some international travel, there's some domestic travel. It just really depends on the company you're working with. You could also have a job where you don't travel, where you just drive to one place every day. You could work in a manufacturing or fabrication shop, which I've done that as well, where you just go to work, same location every day. You're working in a lab environment. It's not dirty at all. It really just depends on you and what you prefer, what you like, but really the sky is the limit. You could work in an amusement park. There are many, many places that you can work with NDT, and you could also get the opportunity to pay to travel.
Getting to see the world while doing work that matters, what a great experience. Muriel, how can students get started in a career in NDT? Like, what classes, activities, or skills should they explore?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. And so to get into NDT, you can go to school for it, like I did. I did go to a community college where I earned an Associate of Applied Science degree. It's a 2-year degree. And during that time, I learned the six main NDT inspection methods. But that's not the only route you can take. You can actually go online and find a level 3 inspector that provides training classes. Some of the classes you only require 16 hours of training, some require 40 hours. It really just depends on the particular inspection method. And to find schooling opportunities, whether it's online or in person, you could also go to the asnt.org website, and they have an education drop down menu at the top of the website where you can click on that and it'll take you to an educational directory. Those are all schools that have been, I guess, confirmed or approved by ASNT to provide NDT inspection training. And there's also the opportunity to check out apprenticeships that may be available in your area. There are some companies that are hiring apprentices and they're paying you to learn on the job. That is a way to get into NDT. But I do highly encourage checking out NDT.
I encourage you all to check out this field where your work can protect lives and make a real impact. Muriel, thank you for chatting with me today about your work in non-destructive testing and helping us to better understand this important field.
Thanks so much, Tamara, for today. It was great seeing you again. It was great speaking with you. And thank you, students, so much for taking the time to tune in. Thank you for your attention. I hope you learned something today. I hope that you would take the time to look into NDT and possibly consider it for a career path for you. You don't have to wait until you graduate from high school to get into NDT, actually. I suggest that you look into it now if it's something that you're interested in, and, possibly start to grow your career and gain your experience before you graduate from high school. I hope you guys enjoyed this session today, and I wish you all luck.
Students, I encourage you to check out the career resource page to further explore non-destructive testing and other STEM fields and the many career applications they have to offer. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel in the description below and follow us on social media to get updates about new episodes. You won't want to miss any of them. Plus, you'll get access to fun weekly content for teachers and students. And don't forget to check out the full library of episodes available on demand right here. Each one has a standards-aligned lesson plan for teachers to use in the classroom, and each lesson also includes a career connection component so students can explore real-world careers associated with the topic. I had a blast being your host today. Keep up with me and my own STEM adventures here. Join us next time for more XSTEM All Access episodes where we'll meet more of the coolest minds in STEM.